What if everything you have been searching for, the love, the peace, the sense of wholeness, was never actually missing? Think about how much energy we spend seeking. We chase after meaning in books and podcasts, in careers and relationships, in spiritual retreats and long hours of meditation. And each time we grasp at something new, we feel a spark of hope. Perhaps this will finally be the answer. But eventually the glow fades and we find ourselves searching again. But what if that entire cycle, the reaching, the hoping, the disappointment, was never necessary? What if the thing you are seeking cannot be given to you by any person, any achievement, or any teaching? What if it has been here all along, quietly waiting for you to notice it? This is not about adding more knowledge to your mind. It's about remembering what you already know in your heart. And once you glimpse it, once you truly recognize what Jeshua means when he says, "You remain as you were created to be," your whole life begins to shift. Stay with me, because the moment you see this clearly, the search is over. And something much more powerful begins. For lifetimes, and not just in the grand spiritual sense, but even within a single human life, we've been conditioned to become seekers. We seek fulfillment in our careers, as if the right title or income will finally make us feel secure. We seek love in relationships, believing that if we can just find the right partner, then we'll finally be complete. We even seek spiritual awakening, piling up teachings, retreats, practices, and mantras, as though enlightenment were some golden trophy waiting at the end of enough effort. But here's the paradox that Jeshua points us toward. The one who is doing the seeking has never truly existed. The seeker is a story your mind is telling itself. It's a role you've been playing in the great drama of existence, but it is not who you are. Imagine you are playing a video game. Your character runs through forests, battles enemies, hunts for treasure. It feels real, intense, even life and death. But the truth is, you were never in the game. You were always the one holding the controller. In the same way, the one you think is striving, achieving, and struggling to get there was never the real you. Jeshua says it directly. You remain as you were created to be. That means you never fell from grace. You never lost God. You never left love. The whole story of separation was only ever a dream. Think about your smartphone. You may spend hours scrolling through apps, searching for connection, entertainment, and meaning. But the truth is, the phone isn't creating connection. It only reflects your desire for it. And the more you chase it on the screen, the more disconnected you feel. That's the seeker's trap. The more you look outside for what's already inside, the more lost you appear to become. And here's the cliffhanger. What if there was no seeker at all? What if this entire journey you've been on, all the searching, all the striving, all the reaching, was just you, circling endlessly around something you already are? If the seeker isn't real, then what is? What does it mean to know God, to know peace, to know love? The first thing to understand is that knowing is not the same as thinking. Thinking is the mind's constant chatter, analyzing, comparing, judging, doubting. Thinking thrives on questions it can never answer, like, am I enough? Or what if I fail? Or what if I'm not loved? Thinking can only divide reality into pieces, because that is its nature. But knowing is different. Knowing is not fragile or fleeting. It's not based on evidence or argument. Knowing is the quiet, steady presence that exists beneath all the mind's activity. It is the direct recognition of what has always been true. Whether or not your mind agrees, you felt it before. You felt it when you held a newborn baby, and in that instant, no thought was required to tell you that what you were touching was sacred. You felt it when you stood under a sky full of stars and were struck silent, not because you had the right words, but because something deeper inside you simply knew, this is holy. You felt it when someone you love looked into your eyes, and there was no need to explain anything at all. That is knowing. Jeshua reminds us, what is true has always been true. That means there is nothing to achieve and nowhere to arrive. You cannot get to God, because you have never been apart from God. You cannot become love, because love is already what you are. Right now, let's make this real. Place your hand gently over your heart. Take a slow, easy breath in, and let it go. Now ask yourself silently, what am I before the next thought? Don't try to answer with words. Just feel the stillness. Feel the quiet awareness that is here before the mind leaps in with its commentary. That presence is not something you created. It was here before your question, and it will remain long after the thought passes. That presence is knowing. This is the beginning of shifting from the restless energy of seeking to the restful awareness of being. And once you taste it, even for a moment, you realize that the entire journey was never about finding something new. It was about remembering something eternal. Every great doorway has its keys, and Jeshua gives us 4 of them, not as steps to climb like a staircase, but as living gateways, doorways that open into the truth of what you already are. These 4 keys are desire, intention, allowance, and surrender. They are not methods to make God come closer to you. They are ways of softening, ways of remembering, ways of letting the veil of separation dissolve. When we live them, the search begins to end, and the quiet certainty of knowing begins to rise. Let's look at each one closely. Key 1, desire. The spark it always begins with longing. Before there is practice, before there is clarity, before there is even faith, there is desire. Now, I don't mean desire as craving, like wanting a new car or a better house. Those are desires of the surface self, the restless movements of the ego. The desire Jeshua speaks of is something deeper. It is the holy ache of the soul. It is the quiet pull within your chest that whispers, "There must be more than this." Have you ever felt that? Maybe late at night, lying in bed after a long day, you sense a kind of emptiness. You've gone through the motions, worked, eaten, scrolled, talked, but you feel this stirring that says, "This can't be all there is." That stirring is not failure. That stirring is the beginning of awakening. Jeshua says, "No one comes to the Father without desire." In other words, the whole movement of returning to God begins when the soul finally allows itself to want truth more than illusion, reality more than distraction. Think about when you binge watch videos at 2 in the morning. On the surface, it looks like restlessness, boredom, distraction. But beneath it, what's really happening is the soul trying to shake you awake. That hunger you feel is not for entertainment, it is for truth. Here's something simple you can try. Sit quietly with a notebook and write this sentence at the top of the page. What do I most deeply long for? Don't edit your answers. Don't write what you think you should want. Just let your heart spill. It might surprise you. You might find beneath the surface level wishes is something much purer. I long for peace. I long to rest in love. I long to come home. That longing is not yours alone. That longing is God's longing within you. Love calling itself home. Key 2, intention. The focused desire is the spark. But once the spark is lit, you must choose where to focus it. That's where intention comes in. Intention is the focusing of the will. Not in the sense of forcing life to obey you, but in the sense of aligning your energy with what matters most. When you set an intention, you are saying, "This is where I choose to place my awareness. This is the direction of my heart." Too often, we let life set our intentions for us. We wake up and the first thing we do is grab the phone, scroll through messages, emails, news. Without realizing it, our intention has already been hijacked by fear, comparison, distraction. By noon, we feel scattered, exhausted, out of balance, and we wonder why. But Jeshua reminds us, the correct use of will is to bring forth the good, the holy, and the beautiful. Think of intention like the GPS in your car. If you don't set the destination, you'll just keep driving in circles. But once you type in where you're going, every turn, every red light, every detour becomes part of the journey toward that destination. That's what intention does. It doesn't control the road, but it gives your path direction. Each morning, before you check your phone, sit quietly for just 60 seconds. Place your hands on your knees, take a breath, and set one intention for the day. Something simple like, "Today I will bring gentleness wherever I go." Or, "Today I will notice love in small places." Carry that one sentence with you like a compass. Watch how differently the day unfolds when your heart has already chosen its direction. Intention is not about forcing life to obey. It is about opening the doorway for love to flow through you. Key 3, allowance. The field of miracles, allowance is where the real magic begins. If desire is the spark, and intention is the focusing of energy, then allowance is the softening of resistance. It's the willingness to let life be as it is. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what actually happens. It comes from our resistance to what happens. Pain is real. But suffering, the clinging, the judgment, the "this should not be happening," that is what twists pain into something unbearable. Jeshua says, "Allowance is sweeter than honey, for it is the field in which miracles begin." Why? Because when you stop resisting reality, your energy stops being locked up in the fight, and suddenly life can move again. Miracles can appear. Think of a traffic jam. If you're gripping the steering wheel, swearing under your breath, wishing the cars would move faster, you suffer. The traffic itself isn't hurting you. It's your resistance that's causing the suffering. But if you take a breath, accept, maybe turn on a favorite song, or notice the sunset out your window, the traffic hasn't changed, but your experience has. That's allowance. The next time a difficult emotion rises, anger, sadness, fear, instead of pushing it away, whisper to yourself, "This too belongs." Close your eyes, breathe into the sensation, and simply allow it to be here without judgment. Often you'll feel the emotion shift on its own because you've stopped gripping it. Allowance doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean you never take action. It means your actions are no longer driven by resistance. They are rooted in acceptance, and that is where true strength arises. Key 4, surrender. The final key, and finally, we come to the last key, surrender. Surrender is perhaps the most misunderstood of all spiritual words. To most people, surrender sounds like defeat. It sounds like giving up, being weak, or letting the world trample over you. But surrender, as Jeshua speaks of it, is none of those things. Surrender is not defeat. It is liberation. It is the moment when you finally realize you were never in control to begin with. It is the soft release of the illusion that you are the author of reality. It is the recognition that, as Jeshua says, there is only God, not as a concept or belief, but as a living truth. Think of when you're swimming in the ocean and a strong wave pulls you under. The more you fight against it, the more exhausted and panicked you become. But the moment you relax, hold your breath, and let the wave carry you, it passes, and you rise back to the surface with ease. That's surrender. You were never in charge of the ocean anyway. Tonight, as you lay in bed, try this. Place your hands on your heart and whisper, "Into your hands, I surrender this day." Offer up every conversation, every success, every mistake. Let it all be released into the care of love itself. Notice how your body relaxes, how the weight lifts. That is surrender in practice. Surrender is the blooming of the flower. It is the soul finally opening to its natural state. And when surrender becomes your way of being, you stop trying to force life, and you begin to live in harmony with the one truth. There is only God, desire, intention, allowance, surrender. 4 keys, 4 doorways, and together, they don't take you somewhere new. They bring you back to what has always been here. Every fear you've ever carried, every moment of shame or guilt, every heavy thought whispering that you are small or unworthy, all of it comes from one single illusion, the illusion of separation. This is the core of the human condition. From the time we are children, we are taught that we are a separate self, living in a world of other separate selves. You are here, I am there. This is mine, that is yours. You succeed, I fail. We divide the world into opposites and cling to those divisions as if they are real. And once that illusion takes root, the mind begins to generate endless layers of fear. If I am separate, I could lose what I have. If I am separate, I must compete to survive. If I am separate, then death is the end of me. This is the prison built of separation. But Jeshua reminds us, separation never occurred. It was only ever a dream. Think about that for a moment. The thing that has caused you the most suffering in your life, the fear of not being enough, the guilt of making mistakes, the grief of losing someone you love, all of it was built upon a story that never actually happened. Imagine you are sitting in a movie theater. The film is so vivid, so immersive, that you laugh when the characters laugh and cry when they cry. You are so lost in the story that you forget where you are. For 2 hours it feels real, but then the credits roll. The lights come up, and suddenly you remember, son, it was only a movie. Nothing that happened on the screen could ever touch the reality of you sitting in that chair. This is what life is like under the illusion of separation. You've been caught up in the movie of me and my life, forgetting that the entire time it was just light playing on a screen. The moment the lights come up, the moment you remember who you are, the suffering dissolves. Not because the story was fixed, but because you see it was never real to begin with. In today's world, perhaps the clearest example of this illusion is social media. Think about how often people compare themselves to others online. You see pictures of perfect vacations, smiling couples, flawless bodies, successful careers, and suddenly you feel separate. You feel less than. You believe the illusion that they are happy and I am not. But what you're looking at is not reality, it's a projection. Carefully curated snapshots, filtered images, staged moments. Just like the movie screen, it can only appear real because you forget the truth. Behind every post is another soul, longing for the same love and belonging you long for. The separation is only a trick of the mind. So how do we begin to dissolve this illusion in daily life? Here's a practice you can try right now. Think of someone you dislike, someone who frustrates or offends you. Maybe it's a colleague, a family member, or even a stranger online. Now close your eyes, take a breath, and say silently, "The same life that breathes me, breathes them. The same light that moves through me, moves through them. We are not separate. Don't force yourself to like them. Just let yourself feel the simple truth. You share the same being." Notice what happens in your body when you say it. Often a softening occurs. The wall between you begins to thin, and here is perhaps the most radical teaching Jeshua gives. Every fear you've ever felt was only love in disguise. This is hard to swallow at first. How could anxiety, jealousy, or grief be love? But think about it. You only fear losing something because you love it. You only grieve death because you love life. You only feel anger at injustice because you love fairness. Behind every fear, love is hiding. Love distorted, love disguised, love forgotten, but love all the same. This is the great reversal. Fear does not prove separation. Fear points back to love. Once you see this clearly, the illusion begins to unravel. The movie ends. The lights come up. And for the first time, you realize you never left the theater. You were always home. When you glimpse that separation was only ever a dream, something begins to shift. You realize that all of your fear, guilt, and self-judgment were built on a foundation of sand. And once that foundation crumbles, you are left with a startling question. Who am I really when all of this falls away? This is where the process Jeshua calls purification begins. Not purification in the sense of punishment, not some harsh scrubbing of sin, but purification as the gentle clearing away of what never truly belonged to you. It is the dissolving of fear, layer by layer, so that only love remains. Imagine a window covered in years of dust and dirt. The light outside has never stopped shining, but from your side of the glass it looks dim, distorted, broken. Purification is simply the act of cleaning the window, not because the light needed fixing, but because the glass needed clearing. This is what happens when you begin to face your fears and allow them to dissolve. You discover that peace was always shining on the other side. The dirt was never who you were. Think of your mind like a computer desktop. Over the years, you've piled it with files, apps, pop-ups, and endless notifications. Every time you try to find clarity, another distraction opens. But purification is like cleaning the desktop. One by one, the unnecessary files are deleted, and suddenly the screen feels light, spacious, usable again. That's what happens when you stop identifying with fear and start releasing it. Peace was never lost. It was just buried under clutter. Here's a simple practice Jeshua inspires. Right now, take a slow, deep breath in. As you inhale, imagine drawing up all the fear, guilt, and heaviness you've been carrying. Hold it for just a moment. Now exhale slowly and imagine releasing all of it into the light of God. Repeat this 3 times. With each breath, whisper inwardly, "Not mine, not me." Not true. Purification is not about rejecting yourself. It's about gently letting go of what never belonged to you in the first place. And what is revealed when the window is clear, when the desktop is uncluttered, when the breath releases all that weight. Peace, but not the fragile peace the world gives, the kind that only lasts as long as circumstances are favorable. This peace doesn't depend on everything going your way. It doesn't crumble when someone rejects you. It doesn't vanish when money is tight or the body grows ill. This peace is unshakable because it isn't created by the world. It is created by God. Jeshua says, peace is the condition of the kingdom. It is the fragrance of reality. That means peace isn't something you manufacture through effort. It's what naturally radiates when fear dissolves. Think of a hurricane. Around the edges, winds howl, debris flies, chaos reigns. But in the very center, the eye of the storm, there is stillness, silence, clarity. That's what peace feels like when you discover it within. The storms of life don't stop, but you begin to realize there is an eye at the center of your being that no storm can touch. That's where peace lives. Next time you feel overwhelmed, try this. Close your eyes and picture a circle drawn around you. Imagine that within this circle is perfect stillness. Whatever thoughts, worries, or problems arise, let them swirl outside the circle. But inside is calm. Inside is peace. Sit in that circle for just a minute. When you open your eyes, notice how the outer world feels different, even if nothing has changed. That's the miracle of peace. It changes you before it changes circumstances. And here's the secret. Once you taste this unshakable peace, your whole relationship to life changes. You no longer react to fear with more fear. You no longer scramble to control the uncontrollable. Instead, you discover a new kind of power, the power of presence, the power of love, the power of a mind that is no longer at war with itself. And that power leads us into the next step on the journey, the transformation of your relationships, your choices, and your very sense of identity. Because when peace becomes the foundation, love can finally be revealed as your natural. At the center of it all, beneath every teaching, every practice, every spiritual path, there is only one truth. Love is the only reality, not love as an emotion that comes and goes. Not love as romance or sentiment or fleeting affection, but love as the very essence of existence itself. The fabric of reality, the substance of your being. Jeshua says again and again, there is only God. And what is God, if not love? Infinite, radiant, boundless love that has never known separation, never known loss, never known fear. To remember this is not to add something new to your life. It is to uncover what has always been true. Love is not a lesson you must master. Love is what you already are. Think of the ocean. Each wave rises, takes shape, crashes, and dissolves. From the surface, it looks like the wave is separate, born and then dying. But in truth, the wave was never apart from the ocean. It was the ocean all along, expressing itself in a temporary form. You are the wave. God is the ocean. The entire drama of your life, your birth, your joys, your struggles, your fears, is the movement of the ocean in a particular shape. But at no point were you ever separate. At no point were you anything less than the ocean itself. This is what Jeshua means when he says, you remain as you were created to be. You are love itself, appearing for a time as a person, but never truly leaving the ocean of God. In our modern world, think of how we treat internet connections. When your phone loses signal, you might say, I'm disconnected. But is that true? The internet hasn't disappeared. The signal hasn't stopped existing. You simply moved into a place where the connection wasn't clear. Love is like that. You can never actually be disconnected from love. You can only lose awareness of it, get caught in illusions, wander into places of static. But the source has never left you. The connection is always there, waiting for you to notice it again. Here is a practice Jeshua invites us into, seeing only love. For one day, try this experiment. Whenever you look at someone, a partner, a coworker, a stranger at the store, silently say to yourself, this is love, appearing in form, even if the person is angry, even if they are rude, even if they seem utterly lost. Practice seeing through the mask to the truth beneath. Love in disguise. You may be surprised. What once felt like frustration softens into compassion. What once felt like indifference begins to feel holy. You begin to recognize that every encounter is with love itself. Here, Jeshua offers the most radical truth of all, even what you call fear. Anger or hatred is only love distorted. When you feel jealousy, it is because you love and believe love can be lost. When you feel anger, it is because you love justice and believe it has been denied. When you feel grief, it is because you love life so deeply you cannot imagine its absence. Every shadow is cast only because there is light. And so every fear points back to love. This changes everything. It means there is nothing outside of love, not even your fear, not even your mistakes, not even the world's darkest moments. Beneath every distortion, love is still the substance. Picture a small child throwing a tantrum. They shout, they kick, they scream. On the surface, it looks like rage. But what is really happening? The child feels fear. They feel unheard. They are longing for comfort, for love. The tantrum is only a distorted expression of the love they need. This is how Jeshua invites us to see not only ourselves, but the whole world. Every act of fear is a cry for love. And when you can see that, when you can meet fear with compassion instead of judgment, then love begins to reveal itself everywhere. Next time you feel fear rising in yourself, pause and ask, what is the love hiding here? Is it the love of safety? The love of connection? The love of freedom? Find the love underneath, and suddenly the fear begins to soften. Because now you see it clearly. Even fear is proof of love. When you live this way, something miraculous begins to happen. You stop seeing enemies. You stop seeing problems. You stop seeing yourself as broken. Instead, everywhere you look, you see love. Love behind every face. Love behind every moment. Love behind every fear. And that recognition that love is all there is the doorway to the final unveiling. The knowing of your true self as Christ, as the eternal extension of God's love. We began with a simple question. What if awakening isn't about becoming someone else, but remembering what you already are? And now you know the answer. You have walked through the 4 keys: desire, intention, allowance, surrender. You've seen through the illusion of separation, the movie screen that had you fooled. You've tasted the purification that clears away fear and reveals unshakable peace. And you've heard the most radical truth of all. Love is not just an idea, not just a feeling, but the only reality that has ever existed. Everything else was a shadow, a dream, a story told on the screen of the mind. You see, it was all like a dream. You believed you were lost, but you never left home. You believed you were broken, but nothing in you was ever broken. You believed you were separate, but the ocean never stopped holding the wave. Awakening is not about creating perfection. It is about opening your eyes and remembering, I am love itself. Have you ever torn apart your home looking for your phone while you were holding it in your hand the whole time? That is what the search for God has been like. You were never missing anything. The love you longed for has always been here, closer than your breath. The search ends not in finding, but in realizing you were never without it. Practice living from knowing. So how do we carry this into daily life? Here is a simple practice. Each morning before you begin your day, place your hand on your heart and whisper, today I will remember. Today I choose love. Then go about your day. At work, at home, in traffic, on social media. And every time fear rises, every time frustration flares, pause and return to that sentence. Today I choose love. This is not just a mantra. It is a choice. A decision to live from the truth rather than the illusion. And as you live this way, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to be the wave. You rest in being the ocean. You stop trying to control life and instead let life live through you. You stop searching for God because you finally realize you are already what you seek. This is the great unveiling Jeshua speaks of. Not a distant goal, not a reward for perfect effort, but the immediate, radiant truth. You are love. You have always been love. And you will never be anything but love. So let yourself rest. Let yourself remember. Let yourself be carried by the truth that ends all seeking. There is only God. There is only love. There is only you, as you truly are.